ring if you're ready to care. Oh, let's talk power, let's talk speed. Hosted by the one and only We Too Deep. Turn it up loud, feel the power in your seat. This is Slapping Me, yes, Slapping Me.
What is up, everyone, and welcome back to the Slapping Meat Community Show. And we have a big episode for you today. It is Tuesday as I'm recording this on purpose. I was going to record it Monday night, but I decided to watch Monday Night Raw. And I will talk about briefly, in like 30 seconds, my thought on Raw last night. But before we do that, we got to cover SummerSlam and all of that. And so that's most of this episode. I got a couple rants, and then we'll talk about SummerSlam. So that's this episode. That's what this looks to be. Just briefly, though, NFL training camps are back. We're close. We have football this Thursday, the Hall of Fame game between the Bears. I'm sorry, not the Bears. The Cardinals and the Panthers, excuse me. Between the Cardinals and the Panthers is this Thursday night. Hall of Fame is Saturday afternoonish, if you all are interested in that. But we have football back, guys. It's the last month of the year without a regular season football game, and if you watch the preseason, you have football this month. Football's back. We are in that season. With that being said, I don't think I have any spots left in the fantasy football league that I'm in, but I can maybe talk to, I think Junkyard James is a commissioner, if anyone's interested. Now, we need an even number, so I would need at least two, or, and for every person, like, so let's say three are interested, I would need four, right? If you are interested in joining a fantasy football league, contact me. DM me on Discord, comment on the YouTube video, whatever, and we can talk about it. But I do need even amount of people to join for me to add anyone else. Just a suggestion to toss out there. If that's something that they're even open to doing, I'm sure they will be. The commissioner, I believe, is my brother, Junkyard James. She'll be fine adding more people as long as we have enough to draft. With that being said, let's jump into the show. We got a couple topics that I'm going to put in my rants of the week category. In the first one, and by rants, I don't mean like these are necessarily bad things, right? I think people get a negative connotation with the idea of a rant. Rants aren't necessarily, at least to me, bad things. They're just something that I want to talk or vent about, right? And so the first thing that I put on the list here is the new Spider-Man movie has came out last Friday, July 31st, which, by the way, was my birthday, just for all of y'all to know. The old 29 now. I'm officially 1 year closer to being a dinosaur, though I've been instructed and informed by some people in another Discord that I'm in that 25 makes you a dinosaur, 30 makes you a fossil. So I'm pretty much dead to them. But 1 year closer to like the end of life. Pretty that's crazy. But Spider-Man, it came out. Now, I'm not going to spoil it. This is one of those movies where, like, we can't spoil it. Like, and if anyone does spoil Spider-Man, you're a jerk. I will say this. I believe, and this may be a hot take, it may not, I believe this is the best MCU movie ever made, and it's kind of nuanced in saying that because technically Sony made this. That contract is weird. So Sony owns the rights to Spider-Man, but in order to continue to own the rights, they essentially have to continue putting out movies. Every, I think it's got to be 5 years release date from each movie. So we get one in 26. The next Spider-Man movie, I think if I understand the contract right, has to be out by 2030 or 2031, which more than likely will happen. But Sony has to continue making Spider-Man movies for the rest of existence, or else Marvel Studios, Disney get the rights to it. It's a crazy contract and how that works. But it's 100% worth it because Spider-Man is the only movie IP in the superhero genre right now that I think isn't experiencing a level of fatigue towards it. So with Supergirl, it didn't perform the way it was projected, and the producers and some of the actors and reviewers were like, well, it's just fatigue. And I think I even want to cross that line as well, as there's just a fatigue for the genre. And I kind of hold that opinion. I think by and large, if it's not something like a Spider-Man or a Superman, I don't think that there's a good enough interest in superhero movies outside of Spider-Man. Like the big guys that are big. I think if Hulk had his own standalone movies, if they recreated Hulk movies in the MCU, I think there would be some interest in that. I think if, Superman, Spider-Man, Batman, I think they have interest. But I don't think any of the other smaller named or less known or less popular, like a Supergirl, especially because of I think there's a bit of a stigma against woman-led superhero movies because of that's just my opinion. It's just my opinion. But I do think there is a bit of fatigue for the genre that only something like a Superman or a Spider-Man can cross. And so what's happening, the talking point right now is, oh, well, it's not superhero fatigue. It's not fatigue of the genre. It's just Supergirl went woke, and that's why it didn't sell. No, I just don't think there's interest in Supergirl because there is a genuine fatigue over the years for that genre of movie. I mentioned when I reviewed Supergirl, I think the marketing hurt them a lot. I think they were their own worst enemy in their marketing, and marketing Supergirl as a sort of rebellious teenager, especially when it came out against kid-friendly Toy Story 5, you weren't going to outsell that, and because of that, you were going to lose an audience. And so, but let's just get back to the movie. And so, I think this is the best Spider-Man movie of all time, and I'm willing to put out there, I think this might be the best MCU movie of all time. I think this movie was... I don't give 10 out of 10 because I don't believe the perfect movie exists. But I think this was as close as perfect can get from a storytelling perspective. From a... I don't understand a lot of the critiques of, Spider-Man doesn't have a villain. He's never... Tom Holland's Spider-Man has never had a standalone villain. And I could see the sentiment there, because a good guy is only as good as the villain, right? And we know this from wrestling. Like, a babyface is only as good as the heel they put him against. We completely understand, completely agree. But I think Spider-Man, the way it's been used in the MCU, at least in my opinion, they've always sort of set up, or I'll say it this way, this movie to me felt like a setup movie. That this movie wasn't supposed to be standalone, where you can watch it by itself and nothing, right? I saw a post the other day about, like, in order to understand what's going on, there's like 106 hours of programming you have to watch. Spoilers quickly, this isn't plot, but I think it was in the trailer, but I'm not 100% certain. The Punisher's in there. So to catch up on the Punisher Disney Plus shows, I think they're Disney Plus, I think they're Disney Plus. But to catch up on Punisher, catch up on, if you've never watched any of the Spider-Man Tom Holland version movies, you have to watch those. The multiverse, because this is still in the multiverse era of MCU. So there's like 106 hours of programming to catch up to this movie. Which is insane. I don't have that time. Nor did I necessarily care. But I think this is the movie from a plot perspective. The whole point of this movie was to set up, again, spoilers if you haven't watched it, just a little bit, to set up the next era of MCU, but also like to introduce the idea of the mutants, the X-Games, the X-Men, all of them, right? We're getting into that era of programming, leading into Doomsday, leading into Secret Wars. And so I thought that this movie was 100% effective in being the setup for that, while also, like, the major theme of this movie was Peter Parker dealing with the emotions of MJ and Ned, having to forget him and basically doing life alone for 4 years and not having anyone there and being completely just on the job all the time. And I think that's the larger plot point. I don't think he needed a villain in this movie. But there's certainly a villain. And I don't want to give it fully away, but I think we have to, just a little bit of, as I discuss the movie. If you haven't watched, I'll say this. If you haven't watched, here's your warning, that I am going to give away some plot details. I think you have to when you do a review like this. But the villain ultimately at the beginning was whatever was jumping between human to human. And we eventually find out who that is. I won't give that away because that is a major point of the movie. But we also get, like, in the Incredible Hulk, like, I used to call him Super Saiyan Hulk, like the angry Hulk, super big Hulk, right? And we saw that. I just think that the movie did a good enough job in setting up and leaving enough plot points to get us to Doomsday, because Doomsday is going to be the movie that really sets us up, right? And so I love the movie. Of the MCU, I'm going to be honest with you, I'm not a big superhero movie fan. Tom Holland's Spider-Man is the only superhero series or group of movies that I've seen from start to finish. The first ever Tom Holland Spider-Man till now, and everything he's been in, I've watched. Whether it's Endgame, the Spider-Man standalones by themselves, I've seen them. It's really, like, at this point, Spider-Man's the only real superhero I really care about. And to put enough effort into caring, right? And to wanting to watch. But I just overall, I highly recommend this. With this coming out, though, like, this year has been a great year for cinema. And there's this sort of position in the world today and culture today that, like, Hollywood's over and they went woke and they lost their credibility and people are going to stop going to the theaters and streaming's done one out. And this year alone, I think, has disproved that. So the Odyssey, just in the last month and a half, Supergirl kind of flopped, I'll agree, but you had Toy Story 5 that was a major success. The Odyssey worldwide is almost at $1 billion. This Superman had the highest ever grossing opening weekend, I believe, of all time. The cinema is alive and well. Hollywood is alive and well. I think some directors and movie makers have learned, let's not do this. But even those who do try to press against the more conservative audience tend to still be somewhat successful. Like, for all the talk about how woke the Odyssey was, just a key understanding, I've talked about it enough, it really wasn't all that woke. But for all the talk about how woke it was, it's almost at $1 billion made globally, and that's a major success film, which kind of puts a hampering on the go woke, go broke moniker that the right likes to use. Oh, they went woke. It's stupid of them. No. Because people who actually saw the movie and told them, hey, it wasn't really all that woke, convinced other people to go watch it or watched it multiple times, they made their money. But cinema's alive and well, and that's a good thing because culture needs some sort of vent. Because if you don't allow a venting of frustrations from what happens in the political realm, or the just daily life, if you don't have a vent for that, which is what the arts is supposed to be, then everything just blows up, right? And so we have like, Hollywood's alive and well, that's good. The music scene seems to be getting a bit of a refresh as well, it seems. And so, like, I think that's a good thing. It's always a good thing when the arts and entertainment does well. And cinema's doing well right now. Hollywood's doing just fine. I don't think they're worried about AI in the way a lot of people are. I know a lot of people who are like, oh, AI movies, and I think that's going to be a big thing. I think that's good. But I also think that means that Hollywood's going to do one of two things. Either they get better movies out of Hollywood just because that makes them better, or they just buy the AI and Hollywood controls who has access to AI. Hollywood's not worried, right? I genuinely don't believe Hollywood, the execs, the movie makers, directors and all that, I don't think they're worried about all of that. All right, let's move on to the next little thing, and that is probably the biggest thing on my social media right now is Sophie Cunningham and this whole WNBA fiasco, and I think it's time we address it. I just have a question before I continue. What does the W and WNBA mean? Just remember that question. So here's the crime that Sophie Cunningham committed. She's a straight white female in a highly lesbian and black basketball league. She's quite successful, and she questions authority in the narrative. And really the crime is she stood up and said, oh, yeah, common sense. biological males shouldn't be playing sports with biological females because they're going to hurt them. And we've seen evidence of that, stats and actual examples of men pretending to be women, entering women's sports, and injuring biological women. We've seen that. Like, it's not something that's being made up. And so over the weekend, over the last week or so, actually, there's been, like, anytime Sophie goes and plays, there's been, like, outrage, and they were in Portland and Seattle over the weekend, and Minnesota, and just, like, protesting Sophie, and every time she got the ball, they would boo her. And so I wrote this down. I said, it's Sophie Cunningham versus all. And many would disagree with that because they would lump Sophie and Caitlin Clark together. But I'm here to tell you guys, I think when push comes to shove, Sophie's going to have to go against Caitlin as well. Caitlin Clark seems to be very interested in trying to remain neutral, but in doing so, she's given herself over to the same spirit that is anti-Sophie Cunningham. She's sort of, and trying to appease them and not try to get on their bad side, she's turned her back on the only person who had her back when she was being hated for whatever reason she was being hated for, right? And I think Caitlin thinks that being neutral and trying to be nice with everyone and trying to be like, oh, I'm just here to play basketball, that's a neutral answer and not picking sides. And really what it is picking sides. You're either with Sophie Cunningham or you're not. And her answer was, whatever they say. You know, I'm just going to dribble the ball. I think that's a cowardly answer for someone who Sophie is, you know, when she was added to Indiana, Sophie became the protector because Caitlin was getting knocked over all the time. And Sophie was the only one on the court that was standing up for her. And I kind of, if I was Sophie, it would feel like a slap in the face that, hey, I'm over here being critiqued for common sense. You can just stand up a little bit and just sort of nod in agreement. I don't know. So it is literally Sophie Cunningham versus the entire WNBA. And just craziness that happens in this situation. The coach of Golden State Valkyries straight up answered, yeah, biological men should be able to play in the WNBA, which begs the differ. Like, if LeBron James decides he no longer wants to play in the NBA because he just can't handle it anymore, but he decides, you know what, I'm going to identify as a female at 40 whatever years old he is, LeBron James enters the WNBA. He's better than any woman on that league. And he's going to come in and he's going to dominate. He's going to put up 100 points a game. And as long as he identifies as a female, apparently no one cares about what that means. And in trying to be inclusive, you're just completely forsaking common sense. Right? This has nothing to do with being anti-trans or whatever. It's just common sense. Like, men shouldn't fight women, even if the man in the ring identifies as a female. There should never be a UFC match where Ronda Rousey goes up against Brock Lesnar. That just shouldn't happen. And we allow that for the sake of like being inclusive. But really what it is it's coming out to prove the left, the progressives, they really don't care about women. They're fine with women getting hurt as long as it means that, right? Because notice this, like, feminism used to be like, we want equality. Then it was like, well, men are evil. And now it's like, oh, well, we're just going to allow men to pretend to be women, and we're going to give them more benefits and more equality than normal women at the expense of normal women. It's just insanity to me. And then that's sort of where we end there. We'll go straight into SummerSlam, giving my thoughts on that. We'll start with night one. Liv retains in match one against Io. Kind of a surprise, but I really genuinely didn't care. 6-man match, LA Knight, Royce Keys, Solo versus Jimmy J and Jacob. And just like I said, Solo's team's going to win. LA Knight gets the pin, though, which is the surprise to me. LA Knight gets the pin. And then that's that. Well, I'm just going to briefly go over the results, then I'll give my overall thoughts. Gunther versus Aldis. I'm just going to be honest, like, while I understand the feud, and the match itself really was good at telling a story in the ring, I think the story outside the ring was a little lacking in terms of, like, there was no, like, cost to the match. It was just Gunther versus, Aldis. There was no, like, Aldis, if you lose, you're fired. Aldis, if you win, you're reinstated type, like stake. There was no stake. There was nothing that really made me care about the match. And if there was, they didn't explain it. Because obviously I haven't watched the programming. But Aldis loses, and then Triple H says, oh, you were a man. You fought and stood up for yourself. I reinstate you. Like, that was kind of eh. So the match just seemed kind of meaningless in and of itself. And I know people, the nerds are going to be out, well, obviously it was just to give Gunther a important-ish type match without ruining current storylines. And I need y'all to understand, when I watch wrestling, I don't watch wrestling like a mark. I watch wrestling from, like, if I was a casual fan and I didn't know what was going on backstage, and I'm just here to watch a story, what is this telling me? And I'm not getting that. I'm not getting meaning out of this match. With the results, right? We then had Nikki, Paige, and Brie versus Fatal Influence, in which Fatal Influence wins. And the most obvious turn that we predicted was going to happen, Nikki turned on Paige. I don't know if it's going to mean much of anything because Brie Bella's now hurt. I think it's like a clavicle or something like that that's broken. But we all knew this was going to happen. While I was watching it live, the thought came to me, like, someone needs to come and make a save on Paige. No one eventually did, but I was like, oh, well, this is obvious. It's going to be AJ Lee. I don't think they go down that route now since Brie is hurt. So I think this could just be a Nikki versus Paige feud. And I think that'll be fine. But again, not necessarily the most interesting thing. Excuse me, Punk versus Cody. I put a tweet out on this match while it was happening, like, am I the only one who hates watching CM Punk versus Cody Rhodes matches? And then I explained my reasoning being the matches are always slow and boring, and it ruined the pacings that set up till, right? It really ruined the pacing from what was going on. It was a slow, boring, meaningless match. CM Punk almost killed himself on a moonsault. Looked like he shit his pants. Excuse my language, but like I'm just kind of tired. I'm over both of them. And I just wish that we would move on from whatever this is. We did get a Randy Orton return to RKO Cody, which is interesting. And then we had our main event, Oba Femi versus Brock Lesnar. I'm glad this was the main event. It deserved to be. And then we had the actual match. And I'm just going to be honest with you. This match was about as mid can get, if not worse than mid. I don't understand why we put it in a cage because nothing of the Hell in a Cell was used. And then ultimately, I don't know if Oba missed his mark or if this was the way it was supposed to go. But the final, like, power bomb for Brock not being on the exposed boards really just took me out of the match. Just to be honest, I just thought that for the build-up and for the excitement that I had for it, just very mediocre. And for this to be Brock's last match, I really felt like we should have just kept it over at WrestleMania, because the two matches after it have really just destroyed the feud. They haven't been good. And I feel like the Mania match and the shockingness of Brock retiring at Mania, supposedly, I think that's what we should have ended Brock's career on, and not this, like, because that's really the passing of the torch. Like, we didn't need Brock, like, you're the future, I'm the past promo. We didn't need that. I didn't think it added anything to it. And so I feel like they should have just kept this over at WrestleMania, or done that and waited to do that. I'm still of the opinion that was planned for WrestleMania, to surprise everyone when Brock showed back up and attacked Oba. I felt like to end night one was very boring, very mediocre, very just mid. But that was the same way WrestleMania was. Like, night one felt very off. But yeah, I just genuinely did not like the Saturday edition of SummerSlam. So we get to Sunday, and we start with Sami versus Finn, and right as they're getting ready to ring the bell, Nick Aldis walks out, now reinstated as GM, and says, well, I've made this a triple threat, and then he brings out Gunther. And a lot of people were like, well, he just fought him, why is he being friends? Well, obviously, he gets reinstated. Gunther told him to do what was right at the end of the match. And so obviously, he was a man of his word. He put Gunther in a position to get, but then he's like, well, I'm going to bring out a fourth, and it's a fatal four-way. And Kevin Owens returns, and as soon as Kevin Owens comes out, you know he's winning. And Kevin Owens looked good. I'm not going to hate on this spot. He looked good. He did very well for that return match. He does win. He gets a match against CM Punk for the title. Trick Williams versus Baron Corbin was very slow and boring and completely meaningless, and I don't understand why it happened. And then Baron Corbin ends up winning the title. I don't understand it. I would have rather that been Carmelo Hayes. Just going to be honest with you. Would have rather Trick versus Melo, with Melo winning the title over Baron Corbin. Or at least Melo getting involved in some way in this match, potentially setting up like a triple threat or something. But for a clean finish with no Melo, and then we get Baron Corbin as champion, I just don't genuinely think that is good booking or good storytelling. We then get the Fatal 5-Way ladder match for the interim WWE Women's Champion. Chelsea, Tiffany, Charlotte, Lash Legend, and Jade Cargill. Chelsea Green gets her moment, and everyone's crying and happy. Oh, Chelsea gets booked right. And I'm sitting here thinking, like, y'all know the number one question I ask when matches are over. Okay, what next? And if this is going to be booked as interim, well, then the storytelling has to be Rhea Ripley's going to come back, and we're going to do champion versus champion for the real champion. Well, I don't know how long Rhea's going to be out for. I imagine she won't really have a big return match until Rumble or Mania. And so for me, I just don't understand Chelsea Green versus Rhea Ripley. That doesn't sell for one of those events to me. Unless you're going to have Chelsea lose the title in between that time. But then the reign is kind of not meaningful, right? It means nothing. And so for me, there were only two choices: Jade Cargill or Charlotte Flair. I'm happy for Chelsea, but Chelsea Green is not world championship material. I'm sorry. It's just the way that this is. This isn't that she's not good. Chelsea Green is very good at what she does, but what she does is she's the comedy gimmick. Like, if we gave Danhausen the world championship, everyone would lose their freaking minds. But she's a comedy gimmick. She's a mid-carder. Like, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. She does very good at doing that. And I just don't understand the sort of booking decision of putting this title on her. I think Charlotte would have been fine had Charlotte keep the belt, go through the division. Rhea comes back, we set up either Rumble or Mania, right? I would have been very happy with that. Now, speaking of Danhausen, him and Dom is the next match. Money's on a pole match. Obviously, we knew he was going to win. I liked the match. It wasn't anything special, but I knew that, right? I thought it was funny, hilarious, and I enjoy Danhausen. I think if you don't enjoy Danhausen, you're a mark. And Danhausen is the most over wrestler in the world right now. To not cheer for him, I think, is kind of crazy. Gable versus Penta happened. We got the result we knew we would have. The match didn't blow me the way I thought it would be. And that's an overall theme that we'll get to here in a second. And then we get the main event. And I really thought that this main event of night 2, even it, as good as it was, I felt it fell short a little bit. In terms of one, it became a street fight at some point where the ref just stopped counting. And I get ref discretion, but they were outside for 20 minutes straight without a start of a count. And then all of a sudden, halfway through this match, they're outside, and now he starts counting, and we get a 9 count. Right? Roman winning is fine. 100% fine with that. This wasn't the match. For as long as they've been building this and holding up to building this and holding off on this match, it wasn't the match that I don't know what I was hoping for, but this wasn't it. And I really don't like this, I'm just going to say it, this baby shit, chicken shit. Like Roman Reigns is the good chicken shit heel, but when he does things don't touch, like he said on Monday Night Raw last night, don't touch LA Knight, I'll handle it myself. Or they made mention that Roman Reigns told the Bloodline he wanted to win against Seth by himself. And he's trying to redeem himself and say he doesn't need the Bloodline. Well, yes, the fuck you do. That was the entire purpose of the Bloodline Roman Reigns, Tribal Chief, was that whenever he got in his head or self-conscious and he knew he wasn't good enough or his best wasn't enough, he always had someone in the back to help him. And I felt that we could have used some of that with Roman Reigns here. I don't like this sort of neutral he's not really necessarily a hero, but he's not a bad guy. Bad guy Roman Reigns was what we all loved during the Bloodline reign, right? The chicken shit heel that needed the help of the Bloodline all that time. And I felt that this was needed here. Whether it was introducing a new member or Jacob interfering or something along those lines, I just felt that this was just safe and boring, and it wasn't the match that I wanted for these two to meet. Roman having the chance to get the chair shot back, but then sort of throwing the chair aside and forgiving Seth. That was really, I'm just going to say it, that was really gay to me. No, Roman, you've held hatred for this man for 13 years, and you're just going to throw away your opportunity to get him back? That makes no sense to me. It makes 0 sense to me. Especially with all he done. He betrayed you. He took your wise man at Mania, what was it, 41 or 42? Was that 42? Has it? I don't know. It's been a minute, I think. When did the Vision start? I don't remember. Crappy bookings just mixing together. Overall, though, for the whole show, it just felt to me like this was just another PLE. This felt like this could have been a Backlash, and nothing would have been different. This also felt like it could have been a Monday Night Raw. And every show just feels the same. Monday Night Raw, even last night, was very boring and mediocre, and we had some return. We had Stephanie Vaquer come and attack Liv Morgan. Why couldn't Stephanie come out and attack Liv during the match against Io? Have Stephanie come out, cause a DQ. Now you book Stephanie versus Io, which would be bangers. You book that for Money in the Bank. You even put both of them in the Money in the Bank match, right? and that you can build a feud that leads towards War Games, even, and the winner of the feud gets Liv Morgan or whatever. Like, I don't like this idea that Liv Morgan has to defend every PLE. I think she's fine. Like, champions, I don't feel, especially world champions, shouldn't have to defend every PLE. Like, I like the idea of being like 100 days between title defenses. It makes the match feel special. Build up your feuds within those 100 days to where it feels like the person fighting the champion earned it. And, right? And so building a Valkyrie versus Io Sky feud where it goes 3 PLEs, where it goes Money in the Bank, it goes War Games, it goes Royal Rumble, and then the winner comes out and let's say they get a match at Mania or whatnot, right? I think that you could do something along those lines of like building a feud there to where it feels like, okay, Stephanie Valkyrie didn't just walk in here and get a spot, right? She actually earned this back. Same thing with someone like Big Cass. Like, Big Cass showed up, attacked Javon Evans, of all people. And then nothing else happened with him the rest of the night other than a somewhat poor promo saying he's back to stack bodies, but then he doesn't stack any more bodies. Like, it would have been fantastic during that main event if he came out, it was a street fight, if they were out in the crowd, and Big Cass just showed up and destroyed Jacob Fatu and Royce Keys, and then walked away. Right? That would have been a bigger thing, right? And now to all these people complaining that Enzo's not here, guys, just wait. Let this redemption story happen. Let's build up this version of Big Cass. Get to know him a little bit. He would drown in irrelevancy if Enzo came in and overtook him. And so I think what we need is Enzo to come in and be like his voice of reason, and then they can come together and dominate the tag team division, right? That's kind of non-existent at the moment. But overall, Raw was just pretty mid, right? Nothing really necessarily important happened during that episode, and it's kind of crazy. But I don't know. Yeah, I just felt like the whole weekend was very mid. Everything felt the same. It felt like there was no urgency. Even during SummerSlam, like, this is your second PLE of the year, like the second biggest show of the year. And like the average match time was less than 10 minutes. Like, I felt like, I mean, the show itself went like 3 hours at most each night. I felt like you could have gone an extra hour. You just needed to go till 10 o'clock each night, Eastern time. And you could have had, you had 6 hours, or excuse me, 6 matches. You had 6 matches per night. If you just added an extra hour to the show, extend some of the matches to tell a little bit more story. Roman Reigns versus Seth Rollins that went about 31 minutes. That should have had another 30 minutes. Right? I think, like, the women's ladder match could have had a few more minutes. I think some of these matches, Aldis versus Gunther should have had a few more minutes. I think some of these matches just didn't get the time they needed to tell the story in the ring that needed to be told for it to matter. Oba versus Brock was highly disappointed. It should have been like a 30-minute slobber knocker with blood, and like that's what Hell in a Cell is supposed to be about. And we got this like boring ass match where like the most exciting point, Brock Lesnar pulls back the mat in the canvas, and he tombstones Oba on the boards, and Oba gets up from it, and then he wins by Brock getting powerbombed, not on the exposed boards. Not that it makes any difference. It's the nerds, the marks in the crowd know that it makes zero difference. But like, if you're gonna have the exposed, like, I just felt like it could have gone better. Like, this could have easily competed with Punk and Drew for best of the last few years in Hell in a Cell, and it just fell up very short. It flopped. And so just overall, I just felt SummerSlam weekend, whether it's the 2 nights of SummerSlam or the Raw that followed, was just very mid. It was a very mid weekend, especially coming off of AEW Redemption, getting high praise, and going forward, like, you have AEW doing a bunch of big shows and getting a lot of big praise, and you're just doing this safe, boring, what feels like AI booking. And so I don't think that's a winning strategy. I don't understand what's going on. None of it really makes much of any logical sense to me. So, I mean, it is what it is, but it shouldn't be that way. But yeah, that's how I feel about it. Let me know what y'all think about it. That's going to be the episode today. Not much to really say. But I do appreciate everyone taking their time out of their day to listen to this episode of the Slap and Meat Community Show. Do not forget to join the Discord. Link is in the description or show notes, depending on where you're listening at. Like, share, subscribe. Leave a review or a comment. We would love all of that. And thank you all again for tuning into the Slap and Meat Community Show. I'm Way Too Deep, and I will see you on the next episode.
So hit that subscribe, come along for the ride. Whether it's NXT or NFL time, going in the ropes and forth and deep. Slap and Meat Community every Tuesday. Go for the